Well, in today's video, I'm going to start a new painting and it's already kind of set in front of me. Plus, I'll be narrating as I will paint and do and set up and prepare. So it's not a voiceover after, it's as it happens in the moment. Let me know if that's something you enjoy, but let's get going. First off, I want to point this out. This is my little art journal, which I use every single time to write down when I start on a project, how long I've been working on a project, some of the colors. I already started here with, I call it cow greetings, because this cool looking cow, it looks like I'm sitting on the grass and it walked over and just kind of hovered over me and saying hello. That's what I think. So I am gonna write down today's date and the start, stop, and like total stuff, and then we're gonna get going. So just give me a minute here. Okay, I've finished writing down what I need to write down. So the start time, and I'm looking at the clock right now, it's 9:13, so I'm going to put that in here, 9:13. Today is March 5th, and in total I've worked on this for about an hour, putting on the grid and this sketch. So what I'm going to do is when I'm done, when I stop, I write down the time, I write down how long that was, and then I total it with the already hour worked so that I can keep track on how long it takes me for a painting to, you know, from start to finish. And let's talk about the colors, shall we? I'm going to go grab those for you. So today we are going to work on this cow, and this cow I want primarily in purple tones. So we're going to use purple as part of the like initial wash, but very, very carefully, because I've made a mistake with pigment before. If you haven't seen that video, go check that out. It's on my channel and I'll link it in the description. So, but today we're going to use deep violet. We're going to use black for the background around the cow. And we're going to definitely use titanium white. These two I use in almost any painting every single time. Another color I'm going to be using today is Payne's Gray, just because it is less pigmented. It's a little bit more transparent as well. And I can really start putting in some shadows, but I will mix this in with the main color, the deep violet, the two of them together. And I might just water it down a little bit just because I want some shadows, but I don't want to completely and totally opaquely cover everything. And the final color here, I want to bring in some cadmium red, just because I want it to be a purpley / pinkish type painting. And well, we can add white to this, and we can do a combination of purple, deep violet, and white and see what we get out of these three, and just play with the colors a little bit. But I'm going to start with the wash, like the underpainting, a light, you know, coating over the whole canvas so we can kind of get rid of that white. And I'm going to be using this 2-inch brush for it. It's pretty soft, you know, and I also will be using water. And I made a huge mistake in one of my paintings. Oh, there's a fluffy falling down. In one of my paintings a little while back. I'm going to try to avoid that today. Okay, so first off, I'm going to just put some of these paints on my palette. I do not have a top-down view today, and just because I use a different phone for that to record it, and that phone is in the middle of being charged at the moment, and I find it hard sometimes with the editing to line things up properly, and I just don't want to be messing around too much in the editing process because I have a lot of other things going on. And if I can make my life a little bit easier, I prefer doing that. Now, if you really, really like the top-down view, just let me know. I will definitely try incorporate that in future videos, but for today, I can't. That phone does not have sufficient enough charge. So, and I am filming this with my iPhone, so just so you know. I am going to spray water on the colors on the palette just to get it quite wet, and then I want to spray, if I can aim, spray my canvas, but not too much. It's already starting to drip, you see that? And you can also see that it's kind of, I just used a regular pencil for drawing, so it might smudge it a little bit. So I gotta be careful with that. And I definitely need to be careful with the color that I put on, because the last time it was way too pigmented and I really, really want to try to avoid that. So I'm kind of mixing it a little bit on my palette here before I bring it onto the canvas. and it's already super strong with pigment, especially because I'm adding red as well. So what I put on my palette today is the deep violet, the red, and the white. And I'm going to add a lot more white here because I just want a light color to cover. Yep, I've already almost used up all my white here already. I kind of like this. This is a cute color. See, this is what I've got on my brush, but it's definitely very pigmented still. And I don't want to spray on my canvas any more than I already have, so I'm just going to spray the brush above the palette just to get a little bit more water in. And I just want to be very gentle. I'm just going to see, okay, how much are we covering here? Is this too much? So I just want to be very careful because the last time I kind of washed my sketch away, the last time I almost lost my sketch. So I want to be very careful that I can still see it. Okay, that seems to be okay. Let's go up and down. We're working with acrylics obviously, so it will dry fairly fast. Okay. And I want to make sure that I don't lose my sketch here, because I'm already starting to lose a little. The fact that this is not entirely covered, that's fine. This is going to be black anyway, the background. It's more like this area here. And oh my goodness, you see how quick we run out of paint and how dry that's getting. Okay, I need more white here and a little bit more water. It needs to be a wash. It's not supposed to like totally cover. And here I go again. I can still see my sketch through here, so that's good. Maybe it doesn't pick up on camera, I don't know. But I can see what I'm doing, and that's more important than anything. Okay, I'm gonna really wet my brush here, and oh, I'm seeing actually that there's a lot of water on the canvas now. It's starting to kind of separate a little bit. Okay, move it around. Don't move too much. Yeah, like I said, the background is going to be black anyway, so I'm not too worried about this. You can fill in some of the white spots. I just want to make sure that I can still see my sketch here. Okay. All I want to do is get rid of that like scary white. I almost did the same thing again, underestimated my pigment, but I can still see at least the rough lines here. I'm not going to add any more paint right now. I'm just trying to move what I still have here, but we're kind of drying fast here. I just put a wash on, and yeah, like it's, I don't know if it picks it up really well. I'm just turning it towards the camera. You can still see my sketch. I can still see through it. I know that some of the pencil might have smudged a little bit and moved around a little bit, but I can still see the lines here, and I do see some discrepancies here. No. Okay. Yeah, now the paint is lifting off, see? But I want to be careful with this because, yeah, the paint is lifting off a little bit. I can still see my lines. That's more important to me. And I do have a reference photo, obviously, so I can always go back to that. Yeah, so I'm going to take a break. I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to clean my brush, and we'll come back later. Okay, it's dried. Now it's time to put in the background, and we're going to use Mars Black for that, and I will explain a little bit as I go as to why I picked that color. And I just realized I don't have my water here, so hold on. Left it in the bathroom. Here we go, we've got our water. This is my water jug. It's just an old mason jar. It's getting a little dirty, but yeah, gonna need some of that water, and we're gonna start filling in the background. I really like to use this brush for it. I've used it in many paintings because I can still get like pretty crisp edges like around my subject, and I just like how it moves. This is just a really, really lovely brush. So I'm going to dampen it by dipping it into the water, and then I'm just going to pull some black and really get it into the bristles of my brush. I'm not being skimpy here, like it's pretty loaded, and I'm just going to go work around the cow. And the reason I picked black, and I'm going to start at the bottom here, is because I want my subjects to pop, and almost everything pops really good against the black background. So that's one of the reasons I choose black. Now, I envisioned this cow being something that's like looming over me as I sit in the grass. So why not a light blue background instead, right? I mean, that would have been nicer, wouldn't it? But I'm actually on a little bit of a journey here in, call it interpretive realism in a sense, because my subjects still, I want them to look real, but I kind of want to play with the colors. I want to do a little bit non-traditional stuff just because I can, because it's fun, because I can play with things, and because I was getting a little bored using like the regular colors. Like if you paint animals, there's a lot of browns and grays involved depending on what subject you use. But you know, if you do stuff like dogs and cats, you're looking at a lot of browns and grays, and eventually that can be just a little tiny bit boring. And that's kind of where I was getting at. It was like, okay, I'm kind of done with just the traditional colors. Okay, I'm just going around my subject here. This is not like perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. I can still go over this with the actual color as I paint and then adjust it a little bit. And one other reason is that I just use a plain black background and I'm not mixing a color, is so that I don't have to go back in later on and try to remix something, because I'm not very good at color mixing. I'm not that great with color theory either. I'm still learning. So that's why I go in with black, just because, well, it's straight from the tube. If I need to go back in to fix mistakes later on, I can go ahead and do that without it being a challenge to recreate a color that I happen to have mixed by accident. You know what I mean? So until I master my color theory and mixing a little bit more, I am playing it safe. Now, one other thing I tend to do is also I tend to kind of go over my line a little bit of my sketch so that I can you know, I can still adjust the shape a little bit of the cow without it getting too crazy out of proportion. I try to get as close like to the edge as I can, and I'm just looking at my reference photo here too. It doesn't have to be completely perfect at this stage, you know. It's just the beginning, and you can do a lot of adjusting as you go, right? So that's where we're at. Now you might also have noticed that I have not taped this off, which is kind of rare because I have used like masking tape with almost all of my paintings, and I'm not this time, and I'm doing it on purpose because I've been messing around trying to work on getting prints. And here's the thing, you take a canvas of whatever size and then you put masking tape on it, so then you put masking tapes on the edges, and you just now have changed kind of your painting surface. And I was just having some issues with photos and stuff, and trying to, you know, make it fit in certain frames, you know, in order to get like prints in different dimensions. And I was just running into some trouble there. So I thought, you know what, I'm experimenting anyway. Let's try this without the masking tape and see how it works out. You know? My art, my rules. I get to do what I want. Okay, I'm trying to get as close to my edge there as possible. Still trying to move some of the paint around. Like, I don't really want any harsh lines. I want it to kind of blend nicely and seamlessly. Want to cover that pink and my grid. I could have erased my grid completely, like for the background part, before sticking on this pink wash, and I did not. And if it was a lighter color, let's say I was going to use, let's say, a light blue for my background and not a black, I definitely would have erased the grid, as you can still see here. I would have totally erased that if it was a lighter colored background. But because it's dark and because this Mars black is very opaque, it covers a lot, I just decided, like, that's just not really necessary. Work smarter, not harder. You know, I got a limited amount of time, gonna use it wisely. I'm not gonna mess around with erasing things if I don't need to. And eventually I will do the edges of the canvas as well, but not until this is dry, because I don't really need black all over my hands and then accidentally smudging it into other parts. So for now, we're just doing the background, and then the next step would be to lay down some shadows for this cow painting, like I did with my cat. If you haven't seen my blue cat, go ahead and check it out. It takes a little bit of a different approach to take a reference photo that has, you know, your regular, normal, natural colors, and then interpret it with, you know, different colors. You might be wondering, why the heck would you use black? Because this a cow, and if you look at the reference photo too, has black in it as well. Yeah, true. Well, this is going to be, like I said, not your traditional cow. I'm going to be using primarily purple as its main color. So instead of using, you know, black or gray or maybe a dark brown for my darker shadows, I'm going to use purple colors, like dark purple with maybe a hint of Payne's gray. This is why I love this brush. Look at that, crisp lines, no messing about, boom. Love it. Make sure that I don't have like crazy thick spots in other places. Need a little bit of water to move that around. That might have been just a little too much. All right, and I'm gonna go around the face here. Okay. I want a crisper line, so I'm just changing the angle of the brush because, well, there was more paint in certain parts versus others. There. I find this so satisfying because you can cover so much ground so fast. Just going up to the side. Plus, all of a sudden, your subject will just like be there. It's no longer a mix match of a lot of canvas in the background and your sketch and whatnot. Like, it's very clear now where my subject is, and I like clarity. I don't like to mess around. Okay, I'm just trying to move this paint around a little bit so that it will cover and is even everywhere. Could I've used a bigger brush? Probably. I don't have a very, this is my biggest angle brush anyway, so I'm happy with this. There we go. Wow, that did not take long now, did it? Huh. It's about 10 minutes maybe. Crazy how fast you can block something in. I'm just trying to look to see if I can still see some pink shining through. Yeah, here and there I do. And the good thing is too, once this dries and I find other spots that still have some of the background shining through, I will go back over it. Straight from the tube, man. telling you, actually now I'm lifting it, I can see that. So I'm gonna gently dab this on there without moving it around too much. But yeah, definitely want to get rid of, first off, the white of the canvas, and then secondly my wash. So I'm looking at it from different angles, but I also have my ring light shining on it, so sometimes it's hard for me to see whether it's catching light, if it's just bouncing off, or if it's actually that undercoat shining through or not. I want to be careful because I've had, what happens sometimes is when you put paint at the bottom, because it's wet, and then it will stick to the canvas, and then, you know, kind of becomes a bit of a mess. But that's why I'm gonna go in later and do the edges later, after this is all dry. But this is looking pretty good. So now I've got my main background sorted. There we go. It took me, yeah, maybe 10 minutes. That's awesome. Okay, I'm just cleaning my brush right now. And next step, because I still have the purple and the red on my palette, I'm going to show you my palette in a second. So here's my palette at the moment. I hope I got it in frame. So that's the deep violet, there's the red, it's cadmium red, deep hue, and this is the Mars black. All these colors are Liquitex Basics. So I'm going to add the Payne's gray to it, and I'm going to very loosely now put in some shadows where I think they might need to go. I tend to work from left to right because I'm right-handed, so that I don't, you know, if I start here and I'm painting and I go over and I'm leaning on my canvas, well, if I've already like painted over here going that way, like I'll be touching my already wet paint, so that's not going to help me. I always would work from left to right and from top to bottom if I can, like more like so on a diagonal, or kind of from here to there, left to right. I think I want a Payne's gray purplish mix, and I'm gonna again work with an angled brush. I find that like easy for directions, but when I look at the muzzle here, there's a lot of like small parts. I might actually come in with a round brush like that, just to indicate the spots. But for now, I just want to indicate like the ears are going to be darker like than this part, so I just want to get going on that. So we're going to use an angled brush right now, and just like very gently, this is dry completely, no paint, very gently just fill this in a little bit, give it an indication of color. So but I need to mix the right color, and like I said, I'm sorry I don't have my other camera here, so what I'm doing is I'm actually mixing a little bit of the deep violet with some of the Payne's gray together. So it's kind of darker than the deep violet, but it's not like black. This is not going to be the end product color for this. And that is actually even, hold on, that's a lot of pigment already. I want to be gentle here. I just want to lay down a general like idea of, okay, this is the ear, this is the color, gonna be roughly the color of the ear. I'm gonna go all the way to the end though. I will cover, although the outside will be a little bit lighter too if I look at my reference photos. So okay, so all I'm doing really is, okay, this is gonna be darker than the rest of the cow, so boom boom boom, color till about here, because now we're gonna get a lighter color on the face. So I'm gonna go over to the other side of the ear and do the same thing. I might want a smidge of water here. My paint is drying out because I only did mix a little bit. Okay. This is not need to be precise. This is not asking for, here's my line here. I can still see it. Not asking for details. This is just asking for, where are my darks, where are my lights going to be, right? And it's actually a little bit darker in the inside of the ear, so we can actually put down a wee bit more color there. We can work off of that as we go, and I'm going to do the same on here. So it's darker here in the middle. There. Okay. Still being gentle. I'm always a little scared to make mistakes, so there we go. All right, next would be the eyes, and I'm not gonna mess around with them too much. They are pretty dark. I think I'm gonna just do a little bit more Payne's Gray with that, and just a smidge again of the deep violet, but more Payne's Gray. But I want that a hint. I want a hint of that violet, deep violet shining through. And I'm actually, okay, I'm gonna experiment. So I've just mixed this up, and I'm gonna add a little bit of red and see what it does. I can remix that color if I need to. Let's see what that red does. Oh, that's kind of nice. It almost looks like an eggplant kind of color. That's pretty. Okay, so the eyes, I am, again, I'm not sure if this is the right brush for this, to be honest. I am actually switching, so sorry about that. I make mistakes here too. So I mixed the color, got it all loaded in my brush, and then I realized this is not the right brush. So I'm just gonna rinse it out a little bit with water and dab it on my paper towel. It's not completely clean. So I'm gonna use a round brush just for the eyes because it's a little bit easier. I don't want to make too many mistakes with that. And whatever color I just mixed here, which is a little bit of the I can't talk. A little bit of Payne's Gray, a little bit of deep violet, and then a hint of red, which is barely noticeable. And I'm just gonna fill in the eyes. And it's gonna look weird because there's no definition to anything. The pupil is kind of hard to see. There's a little bit of a catch light. Plus, it is very, very much in the distance, this eye. So it's not even all that noticeable. There's a little bit of white on the inside of this one. Oh, and I just leaned on my black background. So I gotta keep my hand off the canvas here. It's just to indicate, right? And that's all there is to it. There's a little bit around here, and there you go. Is there a little bit around here? Yeah, I already kind of did that, like a little around the eye there. There, just to give an indication where that eye is going to be. And I'm going to do the same with the black spots on the nose. I'm just looking at my reference photo. There's a lot. And I just want to be ever so gentle. So first off, the nostrils. I was struggling with the nostrils too, like to figure out, okay, where are they going to be and what color are they going to be and how do they change and how do I do this. So we're just going to give an indication of the nostril hair. And the same on this side. Some of my sketch kind of washed away a little bit, so I'm gonna have to be a little more precise when I go in with the actual refining of the details. For now, I just want to give an indication where that's going to be, and there's a lot of darker colors here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very gently fill in some spots here that are going to be dark in the long run. I already kind of mapped them out, and I am not really precise here. Okay, I'm just going in and just kind of map out where they're going to be. So kind of following the reference photo. If I make a mistake, it doesn't matter all that much. I mean, they're just, you know, spots on a cow, right? On their nose, on its nose. It's only one cow, not multiple. And you see I made a mistake there. That went way up. Well, okay, we'll just dot around it. You can see this is a bit of a splayed brush too. But like I said, we're not in the itty bitty details at this point. It doesn't really matter. It's just to map out where things are going to be. And this can all change over time, and if I don't like it, I can always put spots in different places. So basically filling in my little sketch here, not following it exactly to the T. You know, nature is imperfectly perfect, right? I like that. So just gonna keep going here. I'm just trying to see roughly where I'm at. It's almost like watercolor, right? This consistency of the paint. It's watered down quite a bit. And that's okay because it doesn't have to be precise. We can do precision later. Just trying to see. Oh yeah, this is a pretty big spot here. And obviously, I mean, if you would do a commission and those spots become really important, then yeah, I would definitely say don't deviate from, you know, the actual markings of the cow. But if you're just doing this for funsies, like I'm kind of doing here, it doesn't really matter all that much where they go. And there's actually one big one here in the nostril area. It's kind of funny. There we go. And around the mouth, there's a lot I've noticed. So I'm just like gently brushing them in. Again, not being super precise with it. Okay, maybe a couple of little splashes there. Just following my sketch here. Got some here. Some of my sketch got a little washed away, so I'm just, some of it I don't really see very well. And then there's this area, but I might want to make that into a slightly different color because I can see that there's a difference in, this is where the mouth kind of sits. And okay, I can use a little bit around here. This area I want a slightly different color just because, but there is a little like area here. And then there's an area down here that's also darker, and just want to indicate it. It's not about precision here, where that shadow might be sitting there. And this is darker too. And then there's this area here that's kind of funky looking. Looks weird in the photo. Like, it's funny once you start kind of looking at it, I'm like, what? Why are there so many shades and colors on this? How am I gonna ever translate that onto a canvas, right? I'm running out of paint, so I'm gonna remix some. Okay, so I've got a few like bigger areas here for a bigger spots. This just is really not, like I said, to get too super complicated as far as shape and color. It's just you want the general idea of something's there, okay? So yeah, my sketch is almost gone too. Yeah, but it just, all it is an indication. That's basically what I'm trying to say. It's like, okay, it's just an indication as to where there is a change in color, a change in light. Speaking of light, that was funny. Hold on. My ring light just decided to stop. What the hey? Okay. Well then. I think my ring light had something to say. So yeah. Again, here along the edges, like there are some areas that are still like white. There are some areas that are kind of black in the reference photo. I'm gonna change that anyway. Doesn't need to be looking too uniform. Anywho, okay, so and then there's the other side that also has a fairly big area that is just, you know, big black spot. There we go. There. Now I want to go in this area here because that is definitely darker, but I want it with a slightly different color tone because now it's all going to become the same. So I'm going to grab some red and I'm going to mix it with the Payne's Gray and see what it does, because the Payne's Gray has a little bit of a bluish undertone as well, so it might make it into a bit of a purpley color as well. but slightly different from the other colors. Oh, I think I like this. Okay, so this area around here, this is the mouth, is a bit darker. Like, and it goes around here as well. And now I'm gonna come in with my finger here because I really want to dilute this. Don't want it to look weird. So basically this is like, I'm following the mouth here. And it's just gonna be kind of a a little bit of a shady area. And here is, like, I'm just gonna do a few like brush-like strokes. Just a few strokes here to indicate like we've got some hair going in a direction, like some fur. And this is by far not gonna, you know, look like the end result. It's an indication. It gives me an idea where my shadows are gonna be, where my lights are changing, where the fur might be going in a certain direction. There. And there's also an area just about here. I'm just gonna rub it in. And this is also has a little darker shadow in that middle part. Like, I mean, it eventually will all come together. It's gonna look funny right now, and it's not gonna make any sense at this point. It will later. It will. Just happen to have some in my, so we're still looking here at the nose, the nostrils, and these are also like tiny little hair areas, but the nostrils are indeed a little bit of a tricky zone. Like, I've been looking at them and the way that they're shaped and the way that they go, and I'm just like, oh boy, how am I gonna do this? How am I gonna indicate, okay, there's color going this way and around this way and then over the top kind of thing, you know, like we've got a nostril sitting there. And it kind of goes around this area here too, like this way. So, all right, I guess I answered my own question. I kind of sort of just did that. And there's some going this direction. And a bit of a distincter line right about here. Kind of like a C or inverted C. You can see that there too. So yeah, this is a little challenging. I don't quite know what to make of it at times, like trying to sort out like, okay, this is the darkest part, but it moves around to a lighter part. This is where I just kind of like trial and error. I'm not quite sure what the heck I'm doing right now. But there we go, we've got some sort of looking nostrils. And then there's a little bit of a difference in the top part here as far as fur is concerned. I don't think I want to do too much over there at this point. Not with this brush anyway. I might just take my moppy brush here, go in here, and just make some general suggestions as to where things are going. There we go. Okay, because we definitely have like a big thing here on the, like there's a, like a little bit of a bump here on the nose. And it's a little hard to distinguish because this goes down to here, then there's a bump there, and then it goes back here, and there's this guy here. So yeah, that makes sense. There's a bump here, there's this guy there. Very descriptive, mama. Good job. Okay, so this area has kind of like smaller hair indications. So I'm just dipping into that like last color that I mixed, and I'm just giving like the general direction of where this fur hair coat is going. Because obviously the nose itself does not really have a bunch of hair. It's like all on the sides, right? For now. A little bit here. Yeah, it's a little hard to see, like where's the mouth, where's the chin. It's all marrying together into one thing at the moment. So I think from here on out, we're just going to have to slowly start refining areas, slowly make certain areas darker, work in sections, and if you have one color, just use it all over. The whole muzzle is going to be interesting, let's say that. That's going to be a challenge and a half, in my opinion, to get that looking like an actual nose. But sometimes things just happen as you create, and that's what I'm hoping for this. So until then, stay happy, keep your peace, keep creating, and we'll see you in the next one.